we are.
Hey,
Perfect. Welcome, Sander.
Thank you. Ah. Hmm. For some reason, the clicker doesn't work. I'll just scroll through the slides. It's scrolling instead of going page by page. Oh, here, single page. That should do it. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so technology is so complicated these days. Anyway, hello. I'm Sander Steffann. I'm one of the board members of the Global Nog Alliance, a foundation to help network operators around the world. We started to help NOGs by just doing basic stuff for them. You know, host a website, host event management systems, host mailing lists and stuff like that, so that the people in the NOGs could focus on the important stuff like their community, which is much more important than all this technical stuff. So we started that, but at the beginning of this year, our activities got a little expanded. So we started a task force, because we don't care where people are, we don't think in borders, we're all one big family, so if part of that family, in this case people in Ukraine, are in trouble, we want to help them. So February 24th, the war in Ukraine started, and it was really bad. I must say the internet in Ukraine did reasonably well considering the circumstances, but still they were having many problems. So one of our board members, René Fiekmuller, one of the orange guys, he helped a friend and they drove with 2 trucks with humanitarian goods to Ukraine. And he came back and he said, well, you know, we can help with humanitarian goods, but we're part of the network community, so can we do something for our friends in the community in Ukraine? So, how did this this work? You know, you drive a big truck to load all the stuff, but getting across the border, for example, is really hard. There's all kinds of paperwork, there's massive queues with trucks. So this is how it started. And René called a board meeting and said, hey guys, well, and girl, don't forget Florence. We started the task force that, okay, let's do this for the Ukrainian operators. So my girlfriend is a designer, she designed the logo, she thought of the name, and we were like, okay, you know, just let's set up a simple website and let's see if we can get a bit of help. And then our phones didn't stop ringing. Like, we posted this on Thursday or Friday, and by Monday, everything went crazy. We got so much support from all around the community. We got donations in hardware, people donating money, offering to help. So with all this together, we set out to help the people in Ukraine. One of the lucky things that we did is in the very first weeks, you know, we had some spreadsheets with lists of who wanted to donate what, and we were very lucky that we built a little online database to keep track of this, because if we hadn't done that, our brains would have melted by now. So, and this was literally a comment that René made to Jan George and me, the 2 of the other board members. It's like, so, how does it feel to go from network engineer to a supply chain manager in 3 weeks? And because we had no idea what was coming at us. But luckily, we had this database, so we have a supply and demand tool. People can put in, from Ukraine, people put in, okay, you know, what do we need? Because we don't want to ship them old legacy stuff that they can't use. You know, we're not dumping our old equipment at them. We actually want to help them. So They put in demands of what they need. We put in offers, so organizations offering stuff would put it in the system, and then we would try to match those against each other. So see, okay, somebody requested a certain type of switch. Well, maybe we didn't have that type of switch, but maybe we had a similar type of switch. So there was a lot of manual work in matching all these up. Luckily, we then made a system where people could actually see what was being offered and just request the exact item, so that lowered the workload on us a bit. And we have really good partners in Ukraine. We're working with the Ministry of Digital Transformation. They provide us with all the necessary paperwork to cross the Ukrainian border. There's DEPS, DEPS. DEPS is a distributor in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian organizations have chosen them to be the distributor for all the help we're sending them. So we send our all the gear to DEPS. DEPS checks it, repackages it, and distributes it to wherever it's needed in the country. So we are sure that we know where it's going, and the choice how to do the distribution is made by the Ukrainians, not by us. And of course, we work closely together with the Ukrainian Internet Association. So, why is this all necessary? Because there's a war going on, but what's actually happening there? Well, the Ukraine was actually very advanced in fiber to the home and internet access. They had a really good network, a well-connected country. If we take stuff across the border, it takes us hours to get through the Polish side of customs. But then we reach the Ukrainian side, and we got a QR code from the ministry, and they scan it, and that's basically it. So the Ukrainians are actually quite well, how do you call it? Well digitized in government and stuff like that. So they really need internet access. So 85% of Ukraine had access in January. And of course, since the war, everything started being encrypted. Signal, Telegram, and people really need this to stay in touch with their families. So accessing news is really important. People need to know what's going on. And this is what the work actually looks like. This is a picture of one of the operators in Ukraine. And as you can see, well, hopefully, they're splicing fiber. There's a big hole in the ground. They're sitting there with a fiber splicing, fixing the fibers, because for some reasons, fibers and tanks are not compatible. And on the left, you can actually see an exploded tank and the remains of its tracks lying there. Like, these are the working conditions for these people at the moment. So what they really need at the moment, which is of course normal equipment like optics, switches, routers, all the usual kind of network gear, but they also need lots and lots of splicers to repair all the damaged connections across the country. So at the moment we are collecting money, and all of that money we're putting into buying splicers, because companies have a spare switch lying around or some stuff that they upgraded that they don't need anymore. But splicers are very hard to get secondhand, because people buy them once and then use them until they die. So basically, we've been buying brand new high-end splicers for Ukrainian operators. And we were very lucky, because we were working with people who were a reseller of Fujikura splicers. And usually that type of splicer costs like 9,000–10,000 euros. We could get it for between 4,500 and 5,000 euros. So, we were getting these high-end splicers for half the money. At the moment, we ran into a little problem there, because Fujikura distributor doesn't have any more. We bought them all. So now we're looking at other vendors and setting up other deals, and we must say that's going really well. But yeah, this is what's happening in Ukraine. Like, bridges are often places where the fibers cross other highways or cross the water. Well, if this is what's left of your bridge, then there's no hope for the fiber. And we see this all around. This is actually a different blown up tank. And you just see everything is destroyed. They're pulling new fibers. Kiev was one of the major hubs, and they were in quite a panic when Kiev itself was being surrounded by the Russians, because if Kiev was being cut off from the internet, then that would have cascading consequences across the whole country. So during that time, they were actually putting in new fiber to have routes around Kiev for more resiliency. So yeah, these are all pictures of cell towers that got destroyed, bridges that got destroyed. So these are pictures from the first trip René did to Ukraine with goods. We loaded up a splicer. There's a Fujikura on the left. On the right, we're loading up some Dell R900 series servers. They went to the TLD operator in Ukraine. And then you end up in the customs queue. And the picture is a bit dark, but there's just kilometers of trucks just waiting to get past customs. But then 8 hours later, when you finally pass customs, the distributor met us in a parking lot just on the other side of the border. Ukrainians are not allowed to leave the country at the moment. So we have to go into Ukraine, put the trucks back to back, and we loaded everything into their truck. And that was our first trip. At this point, René had driven from Berlin to Prague to Ljubljana in Slovenia, and then on to Ukraine, and then back to Berlin. This was a trip of a few thousand kilometers that he did in a couple of days. First to collect all the donations, and then to bring them to Ukraine. So what happened next? Well, we actually started building a whole workflow on how do we collect donations, how do we collect requests, how do we match them up, what can people do themselves, and we're still improving this system almost every week. Like I said, we just started with a little database. We just used Django, Python to just have a little web interface to work with, and we're just adding features as we need them. So we keep talking to all the donors and partners. There's a US company that's now sending $11 million worth of equipment to Ukraine. And we're talking like Juniper MX 960s and MX 2010s, like big equipment. We're not talking, like some people were like, oh, I have this old 100 megabit hub lying around. Can you use this? Like, no, sorry. We actually need, we're supporting network operators, so we actually need decent equipment. And then, of course, this is just a hobby for us. We're not being paid for our work on the foundation. This is all being done in our spare time. So, who are we? Oh, the first one, Corinne Pritchard, is my girlfriend. She's doing a lot of comms and design. Natalie Trenneman works for RIPE NCC. She joined us and basically told us, "You are way too disorganized. You're doing all kinds of good stuff, but this is a mess." So she said, "I will come in, but I'll kick your butts and tell you what to do." And we were like, "Yes, please." we need somebody to provide structure. So she's great at doing that. Well, then there's me. There's Jan George from Slovenia. We have René Fichtmüller from the Orange guys. Erik Bijs is doing a lot of help at the moment. Daniel Hube is somebody from Germany who actually drives to the Netherlands and to Ukraine and everything in between to pick up donations and bring them to Ukraine. And Martin is from PL-Nog, and he's actually using his company and his office to receive all the shipments. So the stuff coming from the US goes to his office, and then he personally brings it across the border. So they're spending an enormous amount of time just driving equipment back and forth. Also, we have people that we work with, Natalia from the Association of Providers and working for the ministry. We have Bogdana, Dmitry, the whole team of the Internet Association, the people at the Ministry for Digital Transformation. Julia helps us a lot. So we have a whole ecosystem basically of people in foundations, associations, ministries, all trying to help to put this together. And of course, we have a whole bunch of companies that that donated equipment from all over the world. So everybody who is part of that, thank you so much. So, like I said, at the moment we are buying splicers for Ukrainian operators, and they're expensive. So we already shipped 8 of them to Ukraine, but they requested about 20. Now we actually I should say Raymond organized some fundraising at the dinner of the EuroX meeting the day before yesterday and yesterday, and just to put up a challenge, they managed to raise 500 euros. So Raymond and I hereby challenge you to do better than them. So if you want to contribute to this project, Raymond and I will collect it, and then at the end we'll do a nice announcement of the. Sorry? By bank, yes. Also possible. We have actually donation links on the website. So if you want to help the Ukrainian operators, please let us know, and please donate to the good cause. And let's see if we can beat the 500 from EuroX. So, that was my presentation, just to get everybody a bit excited. Do we have any questions, or are we in a hurry?
We're not in a hurry. We have questions.
Well, Wahan from RIPE NCC. First of all, thanks so much for all the work you're doing here, and it's amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions. In fact, one is some kind of remark. In fact, that is a reaction. What the technical community is doing in the case of Ukraine, it is the reaction, and we're not ready for this situation. And do you think that it is possible to build some scenarios, not to have the reaction, but to be ready for such type of events, or there might be different events, war, disaster, natural disaster, etc., etc. That is the first question.
I'll answer that one. So thank you for mentioning that, because yes, we are doing that. So now we are doing the reactive bit. But like I said, we're getting like Juniper MX 2010s being donated. Those might not be used right now, but we keep them in storage until, for example, data centers in Ukraine need to be rebuilt. So we're also looking at the longer term there. And for the longer term, we also already have made appointments with people in the ministry and the Ukrainian operators to actually go there and try to learn lessons like, okay, what could have been prevented, what could have been done better. And of course, our foundation is called the Global Nog Alliance. So this is just our first pilot project. All the lessons we learned from this, we will document and also make available to other parts of the world where they need it.
You have also answered my second question. So you're going to make also, this is wild for all the world, for all the global areas. That's
it's because one of our board members is in South Africa, and he's like, you're now doing this for Ukraine because it's in your backyard. But in Africa there are lots of other conflicts and crisis situations going on as well. So we should not limit ourselves to our neighbors, but make sure that everybody can benefit.
Yeah, and the next question is about. Well, you donate the equipment, but do you get, for example, some requests for the capacity building trainings? Because not everybody is familiar with this equipment. Maybe they need some other support as well.
We actually had people offering to do that, but I must say the Ukrainian operators are pretty good at what they do. So they actually do have the knowledge and capacity to do most of the work already. So I'm really impressed by their existing experience. We have people who have offered to help with training or manpower, but at the moment the Ukrainians don't seem to need that.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
There was a question from the internet. How are you preparing for the potential that maybe some bad guys from our eastern neighbor might be trying to sneak in some, bad hardware into your donations?
And do we know who that's from?
Yes, it's a Finnish operator. Basically, he works for Telia.
Like I said, we're a group of volunteers, so we have had discussions about this before. We don't have the capacity to inspect all the devices, like physically, to see if there's any unofficial hardware being sneaked in. So the people at DEPS, at the distributor, they do a really good job of making everything ready for shipment. But yes, there is a risk that some stuff could be snuck in. We do have personal contact with all the donors, so we do talk to every donor. But yeah, there is a potential for risk there, and there's very little we can do about that. So it is a known vulnerability.
Well, has your donation target also been considering the option to maybe they have a process that?
Like I said, DEPS does a lot of work on it, but it's not a 100% fail-safe process.
Yeah.
So we're trying as best we can, but we can't give any guarantees.
Well, I can tell you that the person who was wondering about this is also already happy that you had already thought about it before him.
It's a war situation. I actually last week I attended a meeting of the Dutch cyber defense community. So we also talked about these things. So yeah, we are thinking about it, but we are aware of our limitations.
Any more questions? Thank you very much,
Do you
Sander.
want this headset?
Yes, thanks, Sander.